anticipate a lot of interaction with the elders and equally interaction and questions from each of you so that we can move forward together in this process and that it's a process that we grow and learn from. So kind of sit back and just enjoy. But I always say to be sure to take your mental box on some of this and shelf it for a time, because sometimes the mentalness and the defining and definition of each thing isn't quite as we believe it to be. And when you have a few additional components, then things more or less fall into place in a little bit different way than we perhaps anticipated before. So I'm kind of in that space now, and I'm going to just tune in for just a second and ask if they want to speak first or if they want me to give something more. So let me just ask, and then we'll go from there. And let me just do this. I always do this, but let me just share who the elders are. And the elders are this group of pure consciousness that that for whatever reason I'm able to get their insights, and their insights are loving and beautiful, and there's never any judgment, because as we heard the other night, usually, not always, judgment is self-judgment. And so when you can release the judgment, because when it goes out, it comes back to its originator. And so whenever you place a judgment upon another, think of it more that you don't want to place that judgment where it will return. And it never goes to its source, it goes to its originator, or it goes to its source, it goes to the originator. So anyway, just ponder that, and I'm going to just tune in for a minute and ask how they'd like to begin. We are here and to greet you in this moment, this day. For all in this time are in a state of flux, for there is much going on in the world of form from many different levels. And we will say that when you stop to pause and look upon what is all about you, but with a slightly whimsical, wondering perspective, as opposed to mentally posturing why this or that is occurring, then you will be more about what you might see more plainly during this time. For there are many things that are, as we say, underfoot. And so look upon each of those things with a wonderment of a child. Each of those things might be engaged with from a manner of pure potentiality. For you are stepping from one time to the next. You are stepping from a lesser than posture into a change of sorts. And we will not say whether the change is of a greater or lower caliber, for there is much in play today. And so you must wait and see from choices made, from decisions postulated upon, and then actions taken, what then does occur. For each one does have a choice in how they look upon each thing that they view. And we today will share some of those things that you might consider looking upon differently. For when you stay with one methodology, one practice, one manner of speaking, way of doing it, then you have not enlisted all that you may and might employ. And so this day, consider that it is a unique opportunity to not only come together but to hear insights and access things a bit differently than before. For now, you will see things perhaps more clearly and look through the Maya in the illusion of it all. For there is much that is in an illusionary posture. And so we will say that when you can release the mental gravity of it all and look at life in a more whimsical or imagination inspired way, then you can look and see a bit more. And so we would want to share that in the foundational and fundamental footing of all that is, this earth has presented itself with a unique opportunity for souls to enter into physical forms, to be able to experience what they could not understand before they took the form. For you see, when everything is light and fluid and flowing and of an ethereal nature, then there is not the full understanding of what it feels like to create something. And there is an energy which is known also as your purpose. It is an energy that you wanted to more deeply understand and know. You wanted to know this energy, and it is the reason you are here. It is why you took incarnation in the first place. And when you came into form and looked to enact some simplistic thing, or so you felt, the densities that buoyed themselves up here were a bit different than when postulated upon in a more etheric way. And it was a bit more taxing to undertake that which you sought. And so in leaving the life, you left the life and then returned in another body, vessel, to experience yet again some aspect of the original purpose. But there are many methodologies that are within the dynamic. And so let us say that as each incarnation has occurred, there has been a diminishment of the original intent, that the diminishment was not intended, except that there is a free will component here on earth that you are privy to and that you are aware of, and that allows you to make seemingly small choices that turn into bigger ones. Let us say that they evolve. And so over time, you have moved away from that original purpose and have postulated for a purpose that was somewhat similar, perhaps an aspect of, but not the full embodiment of what you had sought to know in an earlier time. And so we are not beating around the bush, but want to say that the intention of your essence was to understand and know. And that is why you came here. And we would like to suggest that you look upon life and recognize that there is much going on these days that is not preferred. And recognize and know that this is not especially a unique time, that there have been other times in past incarnations and past history where there are plague and famine and other atrocities such as world wars, that were not preferred. And so would you also consider that you have now determined many things which you do not prefer? You recognize those things that you do not prefer in preference of those that you do. And so will you then recognize that as you look upon the world stage today, that there are many things which you can now see clearly are not preferred, not worthy of another human life, and not worthy in many regards. And so we want you to get about recognizing that this is the time for you to look about what it is that you sought to understand, what it is that your soul essence sought to understand, that it took this form and forms before it to know more clearly what was not understood at its deepest level. And so you have become a creator in form. You have become a creator in form to create what you now see as your immediate proximity. You are now in the immediate proximity that you have developed, created, and lovingly mastered to give you a space of comfort and peace. But will you also recognize that as time progresses, you will then leave this form in some form or fashion and go to an in-between state where you will again plot and plan to come back again to consider yet again another incarnation. And what we hope to do is to break up that pattern. We hope to break up the pattern so that you will realize that you need not incarnate again, if you so choose. That you now make it about your business to look into those ethers to access the original purpose that you elicited and wanted more deeply to know. And this is what we hope to stir up within you. We want to stir it up within you so that you recognize and you feel the resonance, you feel the vibration, you feel our energy, and that you recognize that this is true for you and that it is of great significance, for it will shift how everything else progresses from this day forward in the balance of your life stream. For if you determine to roll up your sleeves and you determine to make efforts to make this the last time, the last round of incarnation, then you will look upon life's occurrences differently. You will become, as you must, the awareness of all that is, as you align to look upon all that is differently. Amelia, will you take it off mute and see if anyone has any questions?
Hi. I guess I have a few questions. I really am not quite clear of my purpose. I am struggling to have my heart's desires manifest, but that hasn't happened. And I don't want to incarnate again. I want to be completely, fully, permanently liberated, and if possible, leave kind of relics in the ethers that anyone can tap into for any good purpose. If that's also a potentiality when it's my time to leave here.
And it's always your potential, whatever you set up as a co-creator, you certainly have a potential to do all of that, sure.
But love has seemed to elude me, like a significant perfect for me, perfect for the beloved relationship. And I don't seem to be really heard by a lot of people. I think my purpose in some ways is to assist people to be happy, but I'm not really clear, that I might kind of be able to help people in certain large or small ways, but I'm not clear on the purpose or how to achieve my desire or how to exit to have that complete liberation.
Let me ask the elders what they might say. We would say that as you look to determine what this energy is that you want to know more fully, you might take the posture of a child as you look upon all life from the aspect of whimsy and wonderment. Might you know and recognize that the energy you keep is a light and beacon for many. And it is a true testament to understand and know this intrinsically from within. And so when you sit in contemplation, meditation, or however you best connect to what we will say source energy, to receive those insights and understandings, do so as you formulate the question, I love all life and serve in gratitude, wonderment, and purpose. And so as you focus upon that phrase, then enter into a short meditational opportunity, but do so with a journal or a small computer or in some manner to jot down what comes to you. For you may be surprised at what you find. For it is in the journey and of the discovery of those deeply held, intrinsically perfected elements that are held ever so safely and nestled within. For you have a body vessel that does harbor and keep those things which are of unique significance to you. And the key is to hone in on this, hone in by the resonance, the way that these things feel, and the way that you feel in relation to them. For when you seek, you will find, but not in a, what we might say, needy energy. It is the posture and the energy you keep that will allow you to align with what you seek. For if the energy is not in alignment with the energy you seek, it will be a misfire of sorts. It is like taking the key and placing it into the wrong lock. And although it will fit, it will not turn the lock to access that which you seek. And so it is an energy key in many regards that you must recognize is necessary. And so seek to release any predisposed things that you feel less than having. In other words, release what you prefer or think you cannot live without, to recognize that you have more than you could ever know or ever wander toward. For when you look for something that is not in front of you, something that you cannot readily see. It is the energy that you keep in order to access it as a key. And so align in this way. Release the neediness, the wanting, and put on the cloak of surety, the cloak of all-knowing, the cloak of love, and the mantle that will move you toward all that is.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really beautiful.
Is there anyone else who'd like to ask a question? We will say that when you are ready, intend to see life and the occurrences today in a different way. We will say that life has a myriad of choices. And as you look toward those that you do not prefer, look to embrace and focus upon those that you do. Look to embrace upon those that give you the firm footing, give you the resolve and the understanding that there is more to what can be seen in this time. And that can be good and bad. It can be high and low. But as opposed to defining something in such a way, consider that it is as it is, and all will shift accordingly when it is time for you to look upon life in that different vantage. And wouldn't that be a wonderful thing to see the opportunity that each one does have in the space in which they now reside? And so consider all of these as we step back and allow for a discussion to be held as you prefer. So what I'd love to share is a little bit about this understanding. They've given 2 books, and I'd never done anything like this before. And so it was really kind of exciting to make sure that the words were right and that they were as they needed to be. But the little book, To Find Your Purpose, was the first book, and it came rather quickly. And then the second book was the What If book of What Is. And in that book, they talk about self-healing and different steps that you can take to self-heal and to move away from postures that really aren't necessary or preferred or beneficial in any regard to your life. And how so much is held by energy within our form. And so the beginnings of disease and illness are kind of stored within us. And it starts from emotions and the emotional energies that perhaps you haven't fully felt, and you went through an occurrence and you kind of stuffed some things down, and then you mushed on. And when you don't feel the emotional energy that you've created, then it over time turns into something that it didn't originate as. And so the key is to always get about locating that energy and doing a little bit of, I hate to even say work, but doing a number of steps or a few steps to clear it out, to lighten your load. And it's an energetic load. And so, but what I've come to realize most recently is I always thought the little book to find your purpose was kind of a companion to the What If book. But what I didn't understand is it's really the What If book as a companion to the original purpose. And it's because if you don't have a whole and healthy body as you age, it becomes all about just making the body whole and healthy instead of living your life. And haven't you known those people before that have the medications and they have the ailments? And you ask them how they are, they give you a litany of all the different things that are going wrong with them. And how do they allow themselves the opportunity for change if they keep letting their body know that these things are a problem and that they keep reinforcing and almost regurgitating and recreating something that is unpreferred? And so if you keep your house in order, if you keep your body vessel in order, then as you age, because age is only a number, then as you age, you do so pain-free. And then you have, oh, so much more time to get about doing those things that you want to enact. Because it's all about recognizing that we're only here for a very limited time. And so you want to take advantage of the time that you have here, because in short order, it's gone. And there isn't the ability to do the things that you want to do. And the other component of it is that as you create what your purpose is, once you identify it, you actually have a purpose that you've created for this lifetime. But what they've recently said and alluded to in the introduction is that there is an original purpose. And your original purpose is much more broadly placed than perhaps the purpose that you have today. And it is your right as the originator, the creator of everything within your life, and certainly within your purpose, for you to then enact that original purpose in lieu of this purpose in this lifetime. Because it is the overarching, it is the bigger initiative, it is the kind of the umbrella, so to speak, of all the different things that you might have asked to understand in another time. And what you want to do is get about doing what it is that you set out to do by coming into the densities of Earth, to be able to feel your creation and to be able to feel those things that you didn't quite understand in textbook or in theory, that you wanted to more deeply understand. You wanted to understand and know. And so that's why you're here. And sometimes I know I have lost track of that. I haven't recently, but I had for the majority of my life, because I wanted to make money, have a job, do all these different things. And it was always a underlining priority for me, because I used to read a ton of books, but I was always looking for something that wasn't within the books, and was always looking for some deep metaphysical something or other. And what they've told me recently is that in earlier times, they never were able to share the metaphysical insights that I'd looked for, because They were restricted in what they could share. They were restricted in what they could give in general to those reading it, and they had publishers and they had different things, and it wasn't acceptable to have that sort of thing in those earlier times. And so I was looking for something that never was, but I was always looking. And now what I realize is, as I look out, and there's been so many circumstances that have happened lately within my city and other cities around the nation, and then of course throughout the world, that we're in just a different time. And to think that we'll go back to the time that we had before is almost an impossibility, because there's so many dynamics that, seriously, how could they ever go back to the way they were, because they're not the way they were, and they don't have the same dynamics that they did before. But if we come out of this side of it, because we've had the opportunity to kind of delve deep and to see what it is that we needed to understand and know, and it's almost like we've been given a little bit of a breathing space, a little bit of an opportunity to have those ahas, where we get to see something more that we didn't have time to see before. And so it's a joy, and it's I guess a preferred way to look at things, because we know all the things we don't prefer. We have a lot of things we don't prefer. We've gotten pretty specific on those don't prefer these things type of things. And isn't it time that we recognize that we know we've got the not preferred stuff down? And so let's kind of hone in on the preferred stuff, because then that's what you draw in. Number one, just from universal law, and kind of step into what it is that you sought to understand, know, do, or be. And so that's what all of this is about. It's about self-healing. It's about removing beliefs. There's quite a few, well, I say quite a few, there's more than I've ever had, little YouTube vignettes that have been placed from the elders that are insights that help you to release your beliefs, because so many of our beliefs that we've held aren't necessarily totally accurate or factually real, but they're beliefs, they're perceptions, they're our take on things. And so if you can release some of that and release some of the structure, because structure is kind of putting us sometimes into a mental box, and it's breaking down the walls of the mental box and allowing something more to manifest, and something more to be a part of your life that maybe you didn't see before, because you thought this thing had to have this many occurrences. I had someone tell me that they had to have so many reincarnations, and they had to have so many of this and so many of that, and there's really no defined key on any of those things. It's how many does it take? I think it's taken me a long time, and I'm rolling up the sleeves, and I'm going to do everything that I can do, not only to have this be the last time, but to share it so that it's something that others, if they feel aligned with the words and the understanding, that it can be their last time too. Because isn't it time? I think it's time. So anyway, if you want to take it off mute and anybody wants to ask anything, I'd be glad for that. Or if you have a topic that you'd like to have discussed, glad for that too.
Do I just speak?
Sure.
So,
And who's speaking? Or wait, maybe I shouldn't ask, because then I have to edit it out. So don't say.
okay.
Go ahead.
So I have been told by Michael Tamura, Raphael Tamura, they're very well-known channelers in the world, that my seizures are part of my soul path. And when I was young, because I was so bright, there was energetic interference, and that there's damage in the crown chakra, and that there's these intricate network of channels that get disrupted. And when they get disrupted, I have seizures because I'm bringing in too much energy. And I'm just wondering, does that need to be repaired? There's a lot of it. They keep me in sympathetic dominance and fight or flight. So there's a lot of trauma that's at the root there. But every time I try to access my beliefs, it's like my unconscious doesn't want to allow me to go there because I aggravate. And I have like these grand mal seizures. So I'm just wondering where healing can happen, how to get out of that fight or flight anxiety and repair something.
We would say to step out of the mind, and that is a weightier prospect for some than others. But we would say specifically that when there is all the posturing of this occurrence and that occurrence, it does engage the mind in somewhat of a mental frenzy. For the mind then looks to reinforce what has been given and looks to activate and enact that which need not be in its totality. And so we would say to engage in meditation as you are able, or contemplation, or whatever methodology you so prefer, that disengages the mind. And then when you move from that vantage and you engage in breathing exercises and deep breathing and elicit a posture that moves you to within your heart center, where you can then resonate with the energy that is in the center of it all. For when you stop and shift the script that you have been given, and you shake it up a bit, and you recognize that you do not need to enact and react in the manner that has been, let us say, dictated before. And it is a belief. There is a deep-seated belief of this or that to be. And we would say if you can shake loose of that belief system and do the healing within the heart center and do the heart center expansion, where you will shift from this to that in a different way, for you then change the trajectory of what has come before. But when things have been spelled out and then reiterated and then given again and perhaps another time, to where there is no point because this is the way it is and there are steps, but these are those and those are these, then the mind has the pathway, and there is the relinquishment of the awareness to put the mind and the mental banter and the mental chatter in its place. we would say that mind, ego, and those components are tools that man was given for a time to navigate through this world of form. But many do not know the difference any longer between the mental cavity, the mental box, so to speak, and the egoic voice, and that these are not the soul's voice. But the soul's voice is that meek, smaller, almost non-existent one that is in the backdrop of the mind's eye and in the backdrop of the mental posturing. And you must pause, you must wait, for when you move in any way that is not paused and measured, you are in many ways moving more in a mental or egoic frenzy. And this is not for just this one, but for the many, because there is not the understanding that the mental box and ego rule the roost these days. And they often do not elicit the best insights or advice to the one whom they address. And so we would say to know what is about you, know what is seeking to enlist insights and methodologies for you to employ, for they may not be of good measure at all. They may be more of a pattern or a methodology that is time to be delineated in a way that it is, in a manner of speaking, disintegrated, diminished, done in a different manner, because there needs to be a disruption sometimes from these thought processes that relegate one to a certain situation. And so move into that contemplated awareness as you become the awareness of all that is within your life. For you are the creator of your life and this live stream. And in many ways, there can be multiple steps taken that will progress you from this space to another. But it is a retraining of sorts in some manner of speaking, so that the mind is now put into its preferred cue as ego. For they need not rule the roost or maintain the ability to control as they have before. But it is in the not knowing that there was something more underfoot in a good way. And so seek inner alignment. Seek to relegate those tools that are tools to be tools once again, to be enlisted and used and needed and employed when there is the need for their engagement, when you call upon them in the need of the hour, but not that they appear and immediately engage you to do this or that. We want to make sure that this is clear, that this is understandable, and if there is a point that we need to elaborate upon, we await your next reply. Did you have any questions on that? Everyone's on mute, so I can't tell.
Can you hear me now?
There.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So they had mentioned that the tools like deep breathing and to get to move within my heart, to connect with that energy. And I have tried those tools, and I'm just wondering, they don't seem to, I have challenges to access that energy and get beyond the thinking mind. So I'm just wondering if they could elaborate on a way that would be successful to get my mind or ego not to rule the roost.
We would say that it is a matter of training. For there has been, as we would say, teenagers without a curfew. And so when you recognize that there is never the preference to not control when one is of the caliber of a teenager who looks to see how far they can reach before perhaps their hand is slapped. And so recognize that as you take baby steps and as you move in the awareness of recognizing that you want to gain control over the vessel, and we would say the mental vessel, that you do so from a posture of love and understanding. That you love yourself unconditionally, and that you remove any shackles or ties that make it feel that you must do thus and such in a more quick fashion. But that in the loving energy, as you then move to engage in deep breathing, and it is whatever methodology you prefer. We have described deep breathing before, but it is not necessary to do it this way or that. And so we do not give that now, but rather say to move into the practice of looking for different breathing styles that feel appropriate to you. And then as you move into those states, know that it is as flexing of a muscle and of the muscle growing and becoming more strengthened. That as you enlist to do these things, these different steps, that there will be also a growing ability to do it more fluidly the next time. And it will be less encumbered and navigable and more easily gained as you move from this to that in a method that does resonate for you. For each is specific and unique. And so we would say that not even to stop upon one and leave it in its totality to do, but to look at several different options and to play with it and to engage it and enjoy and to look upon it without the drudgery of discovery, but to perhaps look upon the joy of knowing this thing that is and does feel to be appropriate for you. And as you do that, then you will grow that awareness. Then you will grow the intuitive aspect within you that does then know that it is connecting in the right way. And this is what you seek, because it is giving that trust to know that each component does then align and move in such a way that it does intrinsically buoy you toward more. And so as you navigate this or that, these or those, know that there is nothing that is specifically so, but it is rather those that do align with you, so that you recognize and feel that this is the right one for me. This one feels good. I like this one. Ah, the deep breathing, that works well for me. Do you feel the energy that we wish you to feel? For it is an energetic component, because you are giving your body nourishment in the deep breathing of it. And this will facilitate many things that you feel are incomplete at this time. And so we would say to start there and to do these baby steps in a loving, compassionate way, a deeply centered way, and always in love. Did that address your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to everyone, see if anyone will come forward with another question.
I'm wondering, and I don't know if they can tell us directly more about our own purpose as part of it. If we are sitting there, okay, I have to step more into just that receptive, believing something will come. But in the past, I shouldn't say, but in the past, I don't know how present I've fully been to just have something more come. I guess the concern would be, what if nothing seems to be coming? How to really thoroughly remove these blocks. And then maybe some of your experience of how you've seen this move as your awareness became drawn in this fashion, or that this has come through you. What maybe you've seen in exponential types of growths and unlimitedness that you might be able to share.
So what I can say is that I've wanted to know my purpose for a very long time. And I would, at night, I would ask a question, what's my purpose? But it didn't have to be that one, but most of the time it was. And then I would go to sleep. And I always kept, in the beginning, it was a journal. And then I found I could type faster than I could write. So it became a little laptop, but initially it was a journal. And in that in-between state, when you're just waking up, the key is to remember that you've posed a question. And so you want to kind of, it takes a little practice initially, but you want to kind of pose and postulate a question, whatever the question is. But mine was always 98% of the time, it was about my purpose. And so I would pose that, and then I got to where I would remember that I had asked that question, and I would formulate that question again in that in-between time. And then you start getting insights, and you start hearing, and for me, it was just beautiful, loving language. And I'd write it down as fast as I could because I was worried it would slip away. Mm-hmm. And if you're kind of in that dream state, if you've ever tried to remember your dreams and you struggle to awaken and remember your dreams, you know that it's a very illusionary time. And so, and I did that, I think, for years. And I know that part of it is the discovery, right? Because if someone tells you something or suggests something, if we're not careful, because our mind has been such a big dominant force for so long, I could, with me, I would be, well, that can't be it. I wouldn't have chosen that. And I'll give you a great example is I did that. And the very first thing I got was I'd been sick and I'd been in the hospital for 5 months, and they didn't think I was going to live, obviously, if I was in the hospital for 5 months. And so I had recovered, and it was a few years of recovery. And I remembered asking the question, and one morning I woke up and I was to start a website. And my first website is called allisuptoyou.com. And but at that point I didn't know the name of it. And I was asked to start this website. And I remember sitting there going, oh my gosh, I don't know, this is probably in 2008. I don't know anything about websites. Why would I start? Why would my purpose be to start a website? I can't, I don't know anything about website. I cannot do website. Oh my gosh, I cannot do web. And I was going through all of this. And then I stopped and started to laugh. And I said, I've been asking for years what my purpose is. I'm finally given a little bit of direction, and I'm arguing with the direction that I've been given. So that came from me. So you can imagine that if, so you want to always, you don't ever want to delegate your authority, I'll say this, to someone else, because everything that you need to know is here. And so the key is to get comfortable with yourself, where you can really begin to sense and feel what is right and just and true, because you always, the only one that you can ever trust in life is yourself, because everyone else has a different, maybe, perspective, that maybe it isn't totally time for the perspectives to align, or you may have people with ulterior motives, and on it goes. But you always want to have everything held sacredly within you, so that whenever you have a question, and of course you always seek counsel and seek answers, and you always elicit advice, but at the end of the day you sit with it and you see how it feels as you consider the various questions. And that's why it's so important to kind of begin to train the mind and ego, because they'll take you on a ride. Ego is fight or flight, and it's always about creating something out of nothing, right? Taking and making a mountain out of a molehill. And so they always caution that you want to kind of make sure of who you're enlisting insights from, and that you trust and believe, but you do it with discernment. So the very first chapter in the little book, To Find Your Purpose, is my original past life. And I was given the opportunity to experience it first. And then I went back home. I was on a trip and I went back home, and they finished the book. And at that time, that was the last chapter. And I'd only gotten so far in it, and then it was as if it just stopped. And then when I came back home from the trip, it finished really very quickly. But it was really cool because it was their perspective as opposed to mine. But I had gotten to experience it in a past life regression from a girlfriend who is very dear. and she led me through it, and I got to experience that lifetime. And that was the lifetime where I initially came in the first time, and it was that embodiment and that mission, that purpose that I'm aligning with today. And I was told this is the first embodiment since that lifetime, which was a long time ago, that I've reconnected to the elders because I was connected to them at that time too. And so I'm so very, very grateful. And it just shows you that, when I was younger and earlier years, I always believed in having a teacher. And one of my teachers is online today. And I'm so very grateful for that. And so it's a joy, it's a wonderment. And so for me to move into this space where I always thought I would be the one in support of her, to be in this role is most humbling. And I'm so grateful. But you never know what life has in store for you. And it can be anything that you want it to be, because it's an energy that you're creating, and you can find that energy in anything that you do if you'll apply, certain methodologies to the process, so that you can experience everything that you want to experience. You can know what that energetic component is, because the thing is the byproduct of the energy that you've created. And so why would you create anything that's the thing? Because you can't take the things with you, but you can take the energy with you. And then the other thing I'll say with that is you can always claim your energy. And you can always claim the energy of past life accomplishments in this lifetime. And you can call them into being today. And I've just recently been doing some of that, trying to bring everything in, because why reinvent the wheel? If you and your soul essence already know it, and I'll throw in that a part of moving beyond this earth plane is also making your soul whole. And an ingredient of that soul wholeness is to reintegrate your soul with its past accomplishments. Because if you can get everything together, it's much easier to do it while you're physically in place, you're physically here, than to do it in another dimension. And so if your soul, if you have accomplished, some incredible things, which creation of energy is always incredible, right? And so if you've created this energy and it's your soul's accomplishment, so call that in. And there are some, and I don't know if they're up yet, but I've got about 6 or 7 YouTube videos that have just been finished, and we're getting ready to put them up. And there's just a lot of avenues that you can take, choices that you can make, especially during this time where we have a little bit more time to do some other things that are beneficial to not only our souls, but our psyche. And so as you formulate what it is that you want to spend your time in doing, isn't it a great thing to kind of do some of those things that will propel you in a way that you'll start to look at life and occurrences within life differently? Because it's when you can look upon different things that happen and not be in the drama, but be of the drama. And at some point recognize that maybe it's time to move out of the drama, because while we're on earth, there's always going to be something that is not preferred. And if we can then move and propel ourselves in a way that we know what we don't want, let's get about what we do want. Let's engage what we do want. Let's get that energy going. And if enough of us do it, look out, as I think it will change the trajectory of how things manifest. So.
Now, do the books go into clearing blockages? I've also, for years, I've asked, I often will somehow more so get insights for somebody else, whether they use it or they don't use it. I also have historically just had mostly not pleasant dreams, even if I'm calling in pleasant dreams, but these answers for myself. I don't know if there's a blockage or what, that it's not just so apparent. A little bit more these days, but something might come. But
Yeah, so in the What If book of What Is, there are steps that you can go through, but they're not the only steps. So they kind of give you a platform of options, of several things that you can do to kind of change the way things are working right now. And then I would say don't limit it to that. Use it as a springboard of, okay, I've tried these things and I like this, and this one doesn't work. Maybe I don't want that one as much, but I like this one. Or what about if I do it completely differently? If I do it like this, because what I think they didn't want to do is they want to get everybody's kind of imagination going as to how it might work. But we're the best guide, each one of us, as far as what works best for us. And even though it works well for someone else, it may not be the thing that we connect to. So it's always to be in that space of loving and allowing, so that as you move about and do different things, it's done from a posture of self-love. Because when it's done in any other manner, it is restrictive. And so you just want to always give yourself the opportunity to kind of be on a springboard of sorts, so that, as you go about and do things, that it gives you the opportunity to see life and to move in a little bit different way than you maybe thought of doing before.
now, could you ask them what all of the negative dreams have been for years? I mean, I'll try to even put something into thought before I go to sleep. And again, it's, instead of that, like me going into a fairyland, it's not.
Let me see. We would say to release the conjectures and the posturing of negativity by making the affirmation before bedtime: release from me all that is not of service, as I delve and deeply engage with restful sleep. And so as you set the intention and develop the framework and the belief that this will be so, then you lessen the hold of the mind and the other engagements that are in play. So when I first started doing some of this, I didn't know what it was that I had found. And I remembered writing questions out and then getting answers. And I would suggest that for each of you today, if that's something of interest, because it's interesting when you give different opportunities to yourself in a different way, maybe than you've done before, what might springboard from it. But I remember when that occurred, I started taking a lot of notes, and they were always relatively short, but to the point, and always with love. And more recently, they've gotten longer and more in depth, and almost more profound in a lot of different ways. And maybe it was because I wasn't ready for it at that earlier time. And so it's a joy to be able to get insights, I guess, this way. And to know that we're not, and this is, I think, the biggest thing for me to be able to share, is that we're not just what we can see. And that there's so much more to this life and to all that we have and know, that isn't even anything that we can be taught until really recently. I mean, but when I grew up, there wasn't a lot of that. There was some, but not a lot. And it was certainly more clandestine and, and not considered, of course, Orthodox religion. But it's just so wonderful to be able to have access to a loving energy that I don't have to wait to go to church to feel. And I don't have to put it in any sort of box, really. Because everyone is in the space that is best for them at this point. And so there's even a limitation in limiting in that way. And so it's just a joy, I'll put it that way. It's just a joy to be in the space of pure love and to feel like there's not a right or wrong time to make any determinations or understandings or decisions, but only when it's the best time and when the soul, the essence, the person is able to embrace whatever it is their next step is going to be. So as you go about and consider, what's my next step and how do I make the next best step? What is it that I can do that will make a difference? And it's really a matter of beginning to train the muscle, to train the brain, the mental aspect of it, the ego, that there's a time and place for them, and to kind of always be the self-monitor, to always be aware of the thoughts that you're keeping, to always be aware of what's floating in and floating out. Because so often negative quirks kind of come in and they can lead you on a goose chase. And they can, for me, it was leading me on a path of a lot of little running around here and there and what the elders call doings, where it doesn't really amount to much, where you're running around doing errands or chores and things that aren't really too terribly significant, but they take up a lot of time. And it's to be the good steward of the thoughts that you keep from a positive mental vantage, because as we know, positive thoughts elicit more positive thoughts. And when one postulates on negativisms and negative thoughts, then more of that comes back. And it's almost as if I've known those who will go through every negative scenario just to make sure that they've got all the negatives figured out if something happens. And what they don't realize is by going through those exercises and steps and really focusing on what you don't want, it actually draws what you don't want in. And so if you always can keep a tab on the thoughts you're thinking and how they move you in many unseen ways to your next steps. And so if you're not engaged with positive thinking and just allow whatever kind of floats in to kind of stay with you and for you to kind of marinate in it, that would be perhaps the first step that you might want to look toward, is just to become the steward and become the shepherd of those thoughts and lead them where they need to go. Lead them in the direction that will make them healthy thoughts and beneficial thoughts and thoughts that are worth keeping. And then what you'll find is more positive things will go out and come back 360 degrees to return to you, so that now you have more of that as opposed to the negativisms that are in life today. And so would that be preferred? So that's my little 2 cents. What can I add? What can I address? What can the elders address?
How do you move from being numb?
How do we move from what? I'm sorry.
Being numbed.
Well, don't want to be numb. Can you give me a little more than that?
It is temporary. It's just guess the space I'm in right now, but just feel numb. Just all. Just with all that's happening. Just a bit numb right now. So I'll prefer just to look on and listen. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So know that it's not wrong, and this is just me, but it's not wrong to feel something that isn't always good. You know, sometimes we are in a space in life where we just want to feel what we feel. And that's why we're here. It's not always to feel the good. It's to know the converse of it. So that when we do feel good, we've also experienced the other. And even that in-between stage where nothing seems like it feels one way or the other, it just feels like a loss. And so let me ask the elders. We would say that we send love to this one and to all who are here. And we want you to feel this love as this energy beams out to you. And that all in life is meant to recognize those with whom you share a deep love, whether currently or in the past. But to know that space and to know how all is love in so many shapes, sizes, and forms. Each one that is in physical form does have a heart center And sometimes one connects more fully and completely to another and that heart center. And there may not be a rhyme or reason for it, other than there is a more deeply felt connection that was established perhaps prior to embodiment. And so, in the connectedness of all that is, recognize that each is, in a measure, that love component that never goes away, that always is accessible because it is pure energy. And there is never the inability for pure energy to not be felt or accessed. For that is the beauty of energy. It is most accessible. But you see, it is an alignment to that energy, and perhaps even to say to that energetic one, that you must align in a manner too. For again, it is as a key that does fit into the lock. And when those components do come together in a most specific way, there is a magic, almost, we would say. For there is the one to the other of the knowledge and of the spark, of the awareness that they knew this one and this one knew them, and that is for a purpose. And so when that is felt, or let us say when that is lost, can it be? Can it be lost in the way of pure physicality might imply? And we would say no. That each time there is that one, there is and can be a focus. And when that focused energy is placed upon the one, that one does come into view, because it is an energy alignment or key. And so we would say that there is the gratitude for the design of all that is. For there is not the bulkiness of the body. For the body is a vessel that does hold many energies and many things. But ultimately, all returns back to that energetic source from which it came. And so we would say to align with that energy at any time when there needs to be a buoying up or a reconnection to what was and always will be. For there is no loss. There is only reemergence, and reemergence in a more healthy and whole manner than sometimes it was before.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Dallas.
It's funny how life is, and how the steps that we take bring us to various points in time where we have choices. And the choices all propel other choices. And sometimes the choices start off really little, and you think they're not a very big deal. and for whatever reason, they kind of roll into another choice and into another choice and into another choice. And all of a sudden, that's the life that we're in. And so going back to the steps taken, I'd also say look at even the littlest of choices, because sometimes the littlest of choices are the easiest ones to make. And the easiest ones maybe to think that it doesn't matter enough and I don't need to make the best choice because this one would be more fun, or this one would be more practical, or this one, whatever, instead of really kind of honing in on it and making the choice that is the highest and best choice for what you want to inwardly accomplish. Because if it's all about our purpose and all about really why we came here, then don't we need to do everything that we can to kind of set the trajectory so that we can get about our business and do those things that we came and got lost in some other stuff, got involved in a drama here or a drama there that was, not to say it wasn't very important and not to say it isn't the most important thing, but to look at the overarching of why you came, and not to lose sight of that, and not to lose sight of the gifts that are in the adversity. So if you have any questions on any of those, then that'd be great.
Hi, Robin. Can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, my name is Lucy. My spirit name is East Wind Woman.
Cool.
And I sent a question. First of all, I want to say thank you for that, for what you just said, and thank you for being you. I was really excited about being here today.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm a little shy, so I have to kind of not. I'm kind of hiding from the camera.
You're fine.
Okay, so I don't know how to ask this.
Okay. Just ask.
Well, this has been my problem, I think, for many, many, many years is, and I've just recently started working on intent. Each morning that I wake up, I do my best to have an intent for the day.
Cool.
And my question is, okay, I died and came back to life in 2000.
Wow.
I survived a brain aneurysm.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I'm very, very, very blessed to be here today. And when I moved back to my hometown in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, I was told from an elder, a native elder, that I was a phoenix. And I didn't know what that meant. And he says, well, you died and came back to life. And when he told me this, I also was told from him that I am of the Bear Clan, which apparently are in, they're healers. Like they're always, if you go to the bush, you'd ask a bear what you can eat in the bush because they know. So since my brain surgery, I have been seeing spirits in the room, and I'm not sure if I should tell the client, because I know it's nobody I know, and it's obviously this person. And some friends have told me that maybe I should get into getting away from being, I have been gifted with the gift of touch before my brain surgery. And I truly believe that, my purpose is to do what I've been doing. But a part of me, since I've lost my mother as well, just a year ago now, I know that she's always with me. Mm-hmm. And I have been feeling her in so many different little angel ways. And she showed up in a dream a couple of days ago, and I did a respite last night for a friend. And I almost felt like when, I don't know if it was in my dream or if in my meditation, but I saw my mom's face. But then when I looked to see if it was her face, it was the lady that I'm doing respite. So my question is, how do I, should I because I just recently found out that you can take courses on sort of developing this gift of helping people with the spirit, like what do you call those people? You know, that can see spirit or talk to spirit.
A medium?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's it. So I don't know if I should be doing that, like something maybe that would be more comforting to them other than just doing massage.
So I'm just going to say, me individually,
Okay.
what I would recommend is that you tune in, like you sit in contemplation or meditation,
Okay.
and you tune in and you ask if that's the highest and best use, and that if that's the direction. Because what you want to open up to is, how can you, it sounds like you're wanting to be of service.
Yes, absolutely. I've been told that I've had 1,489 lives prior to this, and most of them have been in being service to people.
And so what you want to do is kind of sit with it and feel how it feels, like put yourself into the shoes of what you're wanting to do, and then feel how that would feel. Does that make sense?
Well, it does, and I have done that, and I'm feeling things like I'm feeling like I should pursue this. But then that same elder had said, no, I don't think it's for you to do as my bread and butter. Like it should be just to help others. And I mean, I know that angels are with me all the time. I just don't know how to speak to them. I don't know how to talk. Like I have sat and said, well, you know, is this the route that I should be taking? And I don't know if I'm in the way. I don't know if I'm in the way because I so desperately want to hear them, but I'm not getting it. So
Let me ask and see if they can give more than what I've given.
please.
Because
Thank
I
you.
gave just a little bit.
I know that's okay, but a little bit is good.
Let me see. We would say in the stillness, there is the greatest connectivity to what you seek to know. The key is not to relegate your beliefs upon what one or another may say. For it is in a manner not using your own discernment of what is the best choice for you. And so as you ask, and there is certainly no limitation on the number of people or individuals or essence that you can ask. But in the asking, then consider the response. But it is not to be a mental consideration. It is to be a heart center consideration. For so often, it is the mental posturing that does diminish what was before. And so sit with it, but sit with it in the holiness of your heart center. Enter into a heart meditation. Enter into a heart meditation, and then as you pause, then as you contemplate, then as you consider what was given, then move from that space to ask for more. For when you relinquish the reins of control to another, they have their potential posturing in play. In other words, they have drawn a conclusion based on their limited knowledge. And now they will give you a pronouncement as such. And it may or may not be the full totality of what might be, must be, needs to be considered. And so the only individual who knows the full scope of those other components is self. And so when you ask another in perhaps even to say dreams and what the dream here to there means, they may elicit a totally different understanding than you individually may be aware. And so it is, to a manner of speaking, relinquishing what you inwardly know to be so. And it is only a matter of staying with it. And it is the staying with it that is often the difficulty. For in the staying with it, there is the mind which wanders, the mind which says, I must get about my business, the mind that says, I have 10 things on the checklist and I need to get about it. But recognize that the mind is a tool, and the mind need not become engaged in this way if it is not the time for you then become the director of the enterprise. You become the director of all that is moving forward within this space and time. And you become the steward of what is a good time to pause and contemplate. For it is in the contemplation of all that is to be proffered and all that is to be considered that needs to actually occur. For when one moves too quickly from here to there without the full assessment of what they might otherwise glean had they waited just a bit longer. So we would say to linger in all you seek, and then linger some more, and then linger for a time and more time. For sometimes things are wanted quickly. And if you have been in embodiment for a number of times and you did not get this then, perhaps try it a bit differently this time. And then always move in the component of love. Self-love, but love knowing that each is an extension and a component of the other and of self. And if there were the true understanding of what this means, the connectivity that does connect all, then there would be a different methodology in play today. And so recognize that there is not an urgency to know this before that and by a certain time. But if it is time or past time, then this is the way you might move to get about it and to understand and recognize more. I can't hear you. You're still on mute. But I saw
Okay.
you said thank you. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, elders.
They're the real ones.
Thank you for doing this, and namaste, miigwech, all that stuff. Have a wonderful life. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I guess it's about time for us to close.
Wow.
So I want to thank each one of you that are here. And we're going to take the recording and we'll post it so you can listen again, because sometimes you get a deeper understanding in another round of listening. I know I do. And when I edit, sometimes I have to listen to it multiple times, and it's such a blessing because I get to hear something that I thought was meaning one thing, and then by the time I finished, I realized it didn't mean that at all. And so, you know, I'm blessed that you're all here, and we're going to probably try to do this again in a couple of weeks. And if you register, then we've got your email address and we'll be able to email you, but we'll probably do it another Sunday like this. Did this work out well for everybody pretty much? Good. So our objective is to, thank you. Our objective is to grow this. And so if you've got friends, at some point I want this, and I know the elders are fine with whatever that happens, but I think their biggest initiative right now is if you're ready to make this the last incarnation, so that we all get about our business and we do what we came here to do, and we get through the Maya that always seems to kind of appear, and that we step through the veil, so to speak, and we engage unlike any other time. So if that's what you're about, and even if you're not, there'll be other things that are very insightful. As I know, I'm truly blessed, because as I read their words, it's just an awesome thing. So thank you all for being here today, and I wish you all the best, and then we'll communicate and probably do this in about 2 more weeks and see how it goes and see how we grow it. Thank you all.